Hello, I'm Tomi, and I'm Tobi Arayomi, and welcome back to Season 3 of On the Table. Cue that music.
We all have a life.
No west, no bed. No ladies, no dudes, female, no female.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Season 3 of On the Table. It's so good to be back in the building with none other than the troublemaker, preacher, bona fide, Tobi Arayomi. Everybody, and by the way, big announcement before we go on the Table is moving channel, isn't it? On the Table is moving channel. Yes, you hear it here first. We are moving off of Rig Nation, and we are going to be on our own channel called On the Table.
We're moving a bit like Ant and Death.
Hashtag OTT. Because it's always, it's always OTT over here. So we are going to be bringing hardcore conversations on the table. Listen, let me just say this right now, just as a caveat. I feel like we need to say this. On the Table is a discussion place to put topics on the table that would otherwise be off the table for many people. And so it's meant to be controversial, but we hope that through airing our different views and opinions, and you guys in the comment section, there can be some kind of consensus. Not everything we say is a theology. Not everything we say is a matter of fact.
Not everything we say, we're saying from our office as ministers.
Exactly.
We are being Tobi and Tomi Arayomi.
Talking to you about issues that frankly most of our audience don't ever really hear talked about except by people who are in movies and magazines in Hollywood. And so let's bring that just to a central point, okay? So today's topic is called Triggernometry.
I'm in a new place. Are we just going to skip that
Oh
over?
snap, yeah, new set.
New table?
This is not a green screen anymore.
This table has not heard our conversation.
This table's never heard of
This is a virgin table.
Do you take this table?
No, I wasn't going
Oh,
there.
sorry, too much.
going.
Okay, so welcome back to On the Table. This is Triggernometry, topic today.
Triggernometry.
2020 has been pure trigonometry.
It's come for all of us.
All of us have been triggered by something.
No one is safe.
Something has triggered us, something has set us off. And so we're actually going to take a look back at 2020,
Okay.
at all the trigger points,
Okay.
because I think the world is going through a global trauma.
Yes.
And if anything, what I want this to be is kind of like the psychiatrist's bed, where we tell the nation, lie down on the bed and tell me how you feel. And so listen, if there's a topic you want us to talk about and discuss that's of mass importance, please leave it in the comments box below and we will make sure we hear it, we air it.
So if there is a guest that you want us to have on this program with us, no matter how controversial or if you think they're aligned with us or not aligned, it will be interesting, I think, to get them on the show.
Yeah,
let's expose every point of view on this show.
Yeah, let's do that. We want to have anybody you're asking for this season, so please let us know. You got somebody lined up for us. We want to sit down and have that difficult conversation with them. But let's start with trigonometry. Trigonometry is the maths or the science of being triggered in 2020.
Man, and it's so easy to trigger people these days. You could say just about anything and really trigger people in our world. So it's what do you pick first? What would you say is the number one trigger point of everybody in the world right now?
I think the best place to start is probably where it all began, COVID.
You think it started with COVID?
Did it start before COVID?
I
I bet it
started
did. I
before
think
COVID.
COVID exacerbated it.
I think it started before
So
COVID.
where would you want to start?
China.
China? Okay, go for it.
I think it started with China.
Why?
Correct me if I'm wrong. And maybe I'm going behind the scenes. No, maybe the trigger point is COVID, but no, it started before COVID.
It started before
Brexit.
COVID.
Brexit was where it started for us on this side of the pond. On the other side of the pond, it was Trump.
Yeah.
That it began with.
Exactly.
Probably the trigger point of maybe almost everything that we're experiencing right now could be China.
Right.
Because just before COVID-19 hits, there's this whole treaty signed between America and China except for an act of God, this thing is binding. They almost looked like the trade war was dying down. Suddenly, a surprise virus hits the whole planet. I don't even think we can go beyond today without talking about that doctor.
Which one?
Who came on Tucker Carlson and also Patrick Bet-David's show, talking about this thing was made up in a lab.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I don't think we can.
But let's just highlight the trigger points. Okay, so are we starting with China or are we starting with COVID?
But also, wait, there's more trigger points.
One.
Prosperity preach. That's a trigger point.
Right.
There were social trigger points. There were health trigger points. There were even religious trigger points. There were race trigger points. You can't even not talk about BLM as well. It's like been like multiple triggering.
Right. So where do you want to start?
Boy. What's triggered you most?
I want to talk about COVID
Okay,
to start with, because I think COVID, if it doesn't help us, let's not do this in chronology. Let's just start somewhere and see where we land. I want to start with COVID because if I think what happened to us in 2020 is we're playing catch up with a year that's accelerated past us so quickly, and so much has happened in that year, and we've not taken time to really sit down and deal with one trauma before another trauma overlaps it, then another one overlaps it, and before you know it, we have this patient who's come into our counseling with not really knowing what the main issue is. And so let's isolate some topics out, and then let's go where there's an alignment and find a spinal column in the middle where all those issues connect.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I think of COVID, I think of something that happened to the world for the first time. We saw something really global. I know we talk about global warming, but those are the invisible monsters that you can't see. We saw a virus literally tear through the entire world, starting in about March 2020, came from Wuhan, China, over to different parts of the world, and affected the economies of every single country.
Absolutely.
Now, this virus, to all of us, is invisible. And I think for me, coronavirus represents this invisible enemy that's gone around wreaking havoc everywhere. But what it's really done to many of us is it's highlighted our fears, our deepest fears.
It has.
And those fears have caused people to react, it's caused people to overreact, it's caused some people to underreact, but either way, I can't say there's not one person to whom there has not been a reaction to the time that you're living in. And I think one of the saddest points for me was walking around and finally realizing, because we fly a lot and we get to see Chinese people wearing masks a lot, and I've always wondered why.
I thought they were being rude. You can't breathe the same air we breathe.
Exactly, always wearing nice kitty masks and different ones.
Yeah, but you forget they went through.
SARS.
SARS.
So they had a SARS
but
outbreak.
They also, they had a few more outbreaks. We haven't learned yet.
Yeah, we haven't learned
quite a few things came.
But we're moving into a template and a model.
Yeah.
That to us is unprecedented. But when you trace back the history of our model, it's actually come from China. Our response to it has been masks, mass quarantines, and we think these are all new ideas and unprecedented, but they were tried out first in China.
For real. And COVID-19 is more than a virus. It's what it's releasing, actually. It's showing, there's now, the left creates these words, like for Brexit, there were, what's it when you're not Brexiteer, what was it again? The Ramona versus,
I don't know.
There was a word. Now there's COVIDiots. Have you heard that?
I've never heard
that. COVIDiots is a new term for people who are basically mavericks of society. They don't believe this thing.
So they're idiots.
Yeah,
so that's why you
COVIDiots.
call them COVIDiots. Okay.
Like you got climate deniers,
Right,
blah, blah, blah.
right,
Now the
COVIDiots.
new word is COVIDiots.
Okay.
And I think COVID-19 is more. I say that for a reason, because I think COVID-19 is more than COVID-19. First of all, it's shown the power structures of life. It's revealed it. We are expected to just accept truth. this thing came from bat mixed with this, then it came from something else, then it's come from something else, then we wear masks, then we don't wear masks, then we go out, go in, go out, the whole Boris Johnson dance. It's been the reaction of people, I think, has actually been quite good. But I'm also concerned because it's also revealed how much power we're willing to give to government. It's revealed how subservient the majority of society is. It's revealed how we are in a state where we don't question anymore. And if we question, you're either a COVIDiot or Facebook and Instagram suddenly has more credentials than doctors who have said, look, this thing isn't as advertised. First of all, when COVID-19 was advertised to us, you remember watching the videos from Wuhan? People just dropping, pop.
And so Chinese people turning black.
You know that? Right.
Chinese racist turns black.
Yeah. But
COVID-19, I'm like, what?
But I'm talking about, you literally saw the fear when someone would walk into an elevator and sneeze. It was like crime and cover. Or people were walking through the streets and just do, like, no, and you see it here. It's not as advertised. There was an immense fear. I remember the first time the nation shut down. The eeriness.
Here's my thing about this. If we're gonna, let's give this kind of an anthropomorphic name. Like, let's personify this and go, this is the patient right now. We need to heal this patient. This patient has come in, called the world. It needs counseling. It's been severely and brutally attacked. It's just come into our attention that this has happened. What's the first thing you do when somebody tells you they've been raped? Ooh. You call the police, I would hope.
Yes, it's an emergency.
We can't deal with the psychological
until we deal
with the crime and the justice. This is the first crime upon humanity when no one has actually sat down to say, who are the culprits, number one.
This is true.
And number two, my big frustration about this is that this is the first crime upon humanity in the history of the world where the victim is being punished.
This is true, but people don't see it as a crime, which is strange.
Which is very...
It's not strange because it's all about money.
What is nauseating to me is the lack of push by people or press to actually get to the bottom of what went wrong. My fear is, just like a really bad marriage where people say, I'm leaving, and you ask why, and they're like, we don't actually know why. My fear is we'll get so down this rabbit hole, let's find a vaccine. Well, let's find a criminal while we're at it. Let's find somebody who we can actually say, this is the responsible person. But right now, what we're seeing is this virus clearly started in China. We don't know if it was, we have information emerging that it wasn't just, it was man-made, and there's a possibility there. But that's not the point. It was started in China, whether through negligence or just willful, malicious intent, it was started. We, nowhere in the world...
And by the way, it's not the first time something's come out of China.
Exactly. And nowhere in the world do we heal the patient before we've even solved the crime. The hope would be that part of the healing of the victim is that there is a justice that's going out at the same time. Don't worry, we're going to find him. We got the best people on it. We're looking for the person who's done this. That's a form of healing for the world.
We were expected to believe it came out of a wet market.
A wet market.
In China. It was a result of
bat
a bat
virus.
and
somebody ate a bat somewhere, and then it got into humans.
It breaks out from that area. First of all, I think it is ridiculous to believe anything that comes from the Chinese government.
Absolutely.
I think it is bonkers. Your CNN push what the Chinese government will say. MSNBC will push. BBC will push whatever the Chinese government will say. And it makes you think. This, by the way, is the second largest, arguably the first largest economy in the world. Arguably, they are stronger than the United States of America.
Yeah.
Think about the power on the world stage. Think about how many nations have sold their souls to China, especially corrupt regimes. Think about how many of them have sold to China for the sake of building bridges or whatever, and China's stolen patents, stolen ideas, and basically remolded and remodeled them. Then you see this collective hush on the nations. Yet Ebola breaks out. Guess who we shut down and blame? Africa. Spanish flu or influenza or whatever breaks out. You blame the responsible nations for various places. But this one, it's almost like, don't you dare mention that this thing was literally, to use a term, made in China. It came from China. It's almost like you can't say it. And if you notice something, and this is the thing that I would say about the victim that's on this table right now. It's a victim that has just come from a cult.
Whoa, okay.
It's more than a physical damage that's been done to this victim. It's psychological.
Right.
We don't realize, I don't know if we realize in our world how much psychological damage we are being subject.
I always tell people the biggest cult in the world is culture.
It's culture.
Culture is, it's not Jehovah's Witnesses, it's not Freemasonry, it's not any of those things. The world's biggest cult is culture.
Absolutely.
And we're all, whether we know it or not, what separates the church from the world is not our anti-culture, it's our trans culture. We're supposed to be transcendent. We're not supposed to be, oh, I'm against culture, I'm anti-culture. Anything culture does, I do the opposite. No, we're not supposed to even be anti-culture. We're supposed to be trans culture. We're supposed to be
inside and transform
a culture,
it from within.
and inside a culture of its own that is not just the antithesis of the culture that we're in today, but it is the complete. It's like God saying, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. It is the complete reorganization of the brain and its and brain chemistry. You know, the Bible says we look at life in a mirror. We look at the prophetic in a mirror. When you look in a mirror and you try shaving your head, you realize you don't know which way is back or forward or left or right. After a while, you have to close your eyes, not look at the mirror. Have you ever done this? Close your eyes, not look at the mirror, and just, okay. Got it, forward, back, and then carry on from there. Why? Because it's a mirror. I think we're supposed to get so transformed that when we look at the world is supposed to go, ooh,
okay, yes.
I don't get these guys. They're operating differently. But you're talking about this patient being on the table now.
I think this patient is psychologically damaged.
Where do you
I
think
think this patient doesn't even
come from?
want to be better. You see people who leave cults, there's a real grieving. They know they've been abused, but they've been programmed to belong. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think we've been programmed to belong. I see people who are aware, but they don't want to be aware.
Right.
There's something in people that they know, we all know, something's wrong here. We all know, every single one of us knows this thing is not the way it's being sold. It's not as advertised. Somebody pulled some strings, somebody did something, there's a big cover up.
Yeah.
We all know at some point, I believe the perpetrators will be held accountable, and I think they are going to have to pay big. You understand what I'm saying? I believe so.
I don't think so.
I hope so.
I think if you're
talking about justice,
I think if you're not making a noise at this point, I think there'll be a couple of people that will pursue justice. But you know, the only way to take China to trial is there has to be a world consensus.
Yeah.
You can't go against a superpower head on. You need a world consortium.
Yes.
You'll need at least USA, UK, other powerful countries, European Union agreement to actually bring this thing to a tribunal.
Aren't you scared that we're being silent?
That's my biggest fear.
Think about
the psychosis of silence.
Think about I get the order of nations. Think about what happened to China and around World War II. They went from the very top to the lowest economy in the world, just like Germany, all punished, lowest economy in the world. Suddenly they start this plan, China, I forget what the plan is, to become the top economy in the world. But I don't mind that. Nations should arise. You should resurrect. Germany resurrected out of the dust heap, moved into automobile industry, and rose to the top again to be the top 5. China has a different ideology. And the thing is, what we don't realize is we're in an ideological battle.
Right.
So you've got, in this middle ground, all these people dealing with COVID-19 are gullible. This is the tennis ball being
Why are they
slapped
gullible?
around. Because we should be louder than we are right now. The gullibility is we're being moved around from trigger point to trigger point. You get what I'm saying?
Give me an EG here, because
I'm
we are. Trying to play
Here we are.
audience's advocate.
I
here.
hate being the ordinary person. Do you get what I'm saying? What separates you from being the ordinary person is you have a voice,
Right.
right? And you
The
don't.
people who aren't ordinary, because we all have herd mentality where we want to be liked by our tribe.
Right.
And you know, that fits with the church and the world. Everybody doesn't want to be disliked.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about being outside of the ordinary, you're
Speak
really
against the call.
speaking against the cult.
Speak against the call.
But there's a lot of people who watch and go, I want to speak against the cult, but I just don't want to be shunned by my family. I don't want to be shunned by my community.
There's a great video you
because
should
the
show.
consequence of speaking out is excommunication from the
But
cult.
look what happened in Germany. You know racism used to mean something. When you call someone a racist, now they desensitized the term. So Trump is a racist. He's not a racist. A real racist. You want to meet real racism?
That's my thing, yeah, because we grew up in Scotland, where there were no black people. So if you were called the N-word.
These are political racists. That's
Yeah.
all we do. You're talking with
Microaggressive racism.
microaggressive
versus-
racism, political racism. But you want to see real. I was going somewhere with that. My brain just.
Racism.
Pooped out.
Look at.
But man, I was going somewhere with it. There was a thread. It's gonna be a haymaker. Oh man.
You said some.
But I'll get back to it if I remember. But you want to play the movie. We were talking about voices being silent, talking against the cult. You want to play the tape on YouTube. In fact, if you can insert it, how to start a movement. You remember that video where you got a guy on a beach and he's dancing? Oh, you haven't seen it? It's a powerful video.
Well,
I
let's
showed
watch it now.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
So you see that?
Wow.
That was the first mover. Sometimes if this victim wants to be healed, this victim needs to find the voice
So
again.
everybody needs a pioneer
Yeah.
first. So the first person was the pioneer, the person who did the stupid dance.
That's the dancer, and
So
everyone's
they're not the
looking.
leader.
Yes,
They're just the
the
pioneer.
pioneer. Everyone's laughing
What's
at
the
them.
difference between a
The
pioneer
real
and a
leader
leader?
is the first follower.
Woo!
That's the real leader. It's the first
Okay, so
follower.
what's the difference between a pioneer and a leader?
Pioneers go alone. Pioneers talk a language like it's lonely at the top. Leaders rarely cross the finish line alone. Leaders will bring people along with them. Pioneers work with projects. Leaders work
But
with
nobody
people.
wants to be the pioneer, right? Because the pioneer always gets shot.
They will be shot. They will be hated.
Man.
They will be killed. They
Wow.
may have to be the martyr for the cause.
Can you be a pioneer and a leader?
Yes.
Thank God, because that's what I'm planning
Absolutely.
to be. I'm planning
Absolutely.
to live as long as I
But see, you might be the first dancer right now
Yeah.
in the prophetic. No, sorry, you might be the first person on the beach. And that people were laughing and going, what's this guy talking about, the prophetic? People were criticizing, whatever. Then a couple of other people come along and they do a little bit of a jig and dance. These are your mockers. But then all of a sudden the whole beach starts moving and no one even remembers the first guy anymore because it's now become a movement. The video is called How to Start a Movement. It's a great video. You see, the problem with victims, if we're dealing with this victim on the table right now who has suffered abuse, what you do with victims is you get them to lose their voice. Isn't there a powerful symbol in covering our faces right now? Isn't there just something about that? There is a bit of a muzzling of the voice of people. I went to Starbucks, right? I walk into Starbucks. I'm like, can I have an almond milk macchiato, please? And then he goes, I can't serve you. I said, why?
You don't want
You don't want a mask, I can't serve you. I said, but there are everybody here sitting down without masks, drinking their coffees. Does this make sense to you? She's behind, dude, on top, she's behind a massive glass screen. But see, there's something going on right now. Does that make logical sense?
Well, let me tell you what doesn't make sense to me. And since this is trigonometry, let me just trigger people some more. Like, your underwear can't even hold the fart passing through it that everybody in the whole room gonna smell.
We went there.
I mean, you wearing underwear and trousers, and you pass wind, it's going right through the fibers of your clothing to some. A virus is a lot smaller than poo dust.
Thank you.
Yeah, this.
Has this been fact checked?
Go ahead, let's fact check.
Let's fact check.
this. But this virus is smaller than poo dust. How are you gonna think that your underwears can't even hold your fart and a mask is gonna hold this virus from getting into you? I feel like this mask is
The mask is there, they say, to prevent, if I have something, prevents you from catching it. There are some doctors who say it's
But does it?
completely
But does it?
insufficient.
Exactly, does it? Achoo. If I sneeze on my mask, does it stop?
Because everyone's also got different masks. I
Yeah.
see people with the mask just there, just as a statement. You know, I even walked
I
back
saw
into
someone with a
Starbucks.
mask on and the nose is just there.
Breathing.
Breathing.
I was there with my mask. All I did was I held it, and then they served me.
It's just for
I
me.
think-
Can I tell you what the new triggering is? You're not wearing your mask. And for me, the mask represents something.
It represents something.
Do you know what it represents to me? Shut up.
That's what I just said.
Oh.
Dude, I just.
Did
Mom,
he just say that?
Did I just? And he didn't act like it was a profound point. But subconsciously, he picks it up,
Oh my goodness.
recycles it back like he
This
just
is
got a revelation.
This is a revelation, folks. Wow.
This is how this brother
Wow,
steals
I
my
am
messages.
profound.
This is how this brother steals my messages. Goes on his channel and said, God told him. I'm like,
Oh,
dude,
please.
I told you that last night.
I tell him stuff and he says God told him too. But it's all the same source.
It is God. Glory.
Glory to God. Exactly. Ooh, humility. Humility. Okay, but it's true. It represents something.
Yeah.
And for me, it represents the measurement of our conformity.
It does.
Because let's face it, here's what happened. We got advice from the World Health Organization and some Oxford University professor in London that the whole world should follow what Wuhan, China does and lock people in their houses and tell them that the only way to fix this virus...
Wuhan, who by the way is saying they have no more cases. Do you believe that?
No, it's a lot of baloney. But the only way to stop this virus is to
The
lock
majority
people
of the world's
in their
population is in your country.
But here's
And
the
you got
thing.
no more cases.
Here's my thing. We are in a battle that is far bigger than COVID-19.
It is.
I don't want to be Braveheart, but you can take away my life, but
you
don't take
my
away
freedom.
My freedom.
My freedom.
My freedom? Why'd you ruin it? I feel like I was ready to really release that prolific moment. But that's
But it's
profound.
real.
I would rather...
It's
we're
all
losing
about
something-
freedom.
We're losing something so much bigger than our lives. We're losing our freedom.
And let me tell you where else we're losing freedom. We're losing freedom in our minds.
Right.
This is it. This is what social media is about. It's all about mind hacking. Do you realize the majority of people have been hacked? Seriously, you don't think
You
so?
know, every season, every episode we've done this, you've always brought mind hacking. I've always changed
Have
the
I
subject
really?
every
No,
single
but really,
time.
have you not
Do
watched
you know
the
what?
show
Yes,
on-
I did, because I finally decided I'm going to figure out what this dude is talking about mind hacking.
Bro, we've been hacked.
It's true, we have been hacked. We have been hacked.
We've been hacked.
We have been hacked.
Think about it. Look at people today. And again, the majority of people on the planet, they've given over their thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's like we don't question. We don't question anything anymore.
Look at what happened with...
Are we meant to be talking about other trigger points, or are we just going to say COVID?
I know. Maybe we. But look what happened with George Bush. George Bush comes into power. September 11th happens. What happens that day? FISC comes into law, the Federal Intelligence Surveillance Courts, which gives the government's power through secret
You know why?
judges.
Because there's a saying in politics: "Don't waste a disaster."
Exactly.
Every disaster that you
Never waste a
see
good crisis.
is a leverage for power.
But here it is.
And more
So
control.
we had FISC, and now foreign intelligence surveillance courts can literally work with the NSA to spy on your mobile phone device if you're not an American citizen, or so they say. So they said, we're going to protect American citizens. But then FISC, or FISA, was the same system that was used to spy on the Donald Trump
Yeah.
campaign. And here's my issue. Here's my fundamental
And that's
issue.
crazy, by the way.
This
That's
is exactly.
underrated. You're talking about the FBI level
because
corruption.
here's my fundamental issue. We have COVID-19.
Yeah.
Nobody goes after the criminal.
Nothing.
The victim gets punished.
Nothing.
We have terrorist bombing. Okay, in this case, it took us a while, but we finally, in a whole new administration, took us years, got the criminal,
Yeah.
but not lest we punish the victim. So
Yeah.
now the victim goes through all these airport terminals, has to be twice checked, 3 times checked, and then lift their hands up as a very invasive x-ray machine can really capture your naked body to see what's hiding under there. So then we had stop frisk, where you're allowed to touch me and get into my personal space, and nobody said anything. Why? Because if you ever want to disarm nations, you disarm them through the gift of fear. That fear is
a great word. So you're talking about the pandemic right now. Is it COVID-19? Is it BLM? Is it what other trigger points? Brexit. It's all been fear.
I think the
The
biggest
whole
pandemic
project is
right
fear.
now is the pandemic of victim punishment. I think when we look at the spine, when I said let's look at the spine of where all these things connect, the victim is coming out punished. The powerful are becoming more powerful, and they're using their power instead of going after the criminal. They're going after the victim.
But see what
and
happens
then
in a
later
cult?
on, people get despondent. It's like, what's happening? Why aren't you helping us? And then all of a sudden, all these powerful people wake up and go, quick, we need to give them something, quick. Let's give them a talking head. Osama bin Laden, come. They catch Osama bin Laden. Oh, quick, they're getting upset. You know, we're not doing anything about Black lives. Let's give them Obama. Obama, come. And
But do you know what's the problem with this victim? The problem with this victim is they're likely to kill us for helping them. Because the victim itself the victim has Stockholm syndrome. The victim has been a hostage all its life and has fallen in love
with his captor.
With its own captor. And so the victim will over and over and over again empower the very people. Can I talk about a trigger point for me?
Go on. Triggers.
Cardi B.
Hey, he went there.
When this man, what's his name now? Biden. That one, you know, came to convince black people. First of all, see, this is what I mean by this victim has fallen in love with this captor. How is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, and all these guys going to endorse somebody who said from his mouth? Do you know what I would do? Be independent. Just go independent.
I wouldn't be independent. Let me tell you something.
But wait, let me just,
I'm gonna trigger you
how
with
are you
this.
going to say from your mouth? How are we going to forget he said, if you don't vote Biden, you ain't black.
And
then
super
to
predators.
go further.
And call black people
Call
super
black people,
predators.
we're going to forget that. But then to go even
Yeah, but
further
people on the other-
and get
but people-
Cardi B.
But people will also say,
Are we stupid?
Now in this trigonometry, people also say, well, what about Trump, who said that there were good people on both sides? What about Trump?
But they
who-
didn't finish the
What
video.
about Trump, who just today said
He didn't condemn white supremacy.
So let's get this
There's
away.
crazy
Let's
on
get-
both sides.
Let's get this away from a left-right thing, because here's the thing.
Go for it.
If we make this left-right, we do the whataboutery game.
Yeah.
And when we play the whataboutery game, the victim never gets cured.
Yeah.
Because we're not trying to be healed, we're just trying to be a better criminal or a nicer criminal than the worst criminal.
Yeah.
You know, we're not trying to go for the best, we're just trying to go for the best of the worst.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's making anything better in that. When I look at Cardi B, I'm going back to the spine. When I look at Cardi B, when I look
she
at
was on her Instagram thanking Jesus for helping her do WAP. She was praising the Lord Jesus.
when I look at Cardi B,
Do we understand? Are we? And I saw Christians that don't praise God. He done it for you. Didn't he do it?
when I look at Cardi B,
Have we lost our ever-living mind?
yeah, when I look at Cardi B is symptomatic of, I think, where a lot of people in society, not a race, not a gender, not anything, people in society are. We are overstimulated to the point that somebody needs to make a song called Wet Something Female.
You can't even say the
You can't
rest.
even say the word.
You can just say wet, just about.
to take it to the next level. Here's the problem with the patient right now. Let's come back to the patient. This patient is a 30-year-old, right?
Why 30?
Let's personify her because
Why 30?
Because she is
Why
the-
is she?
she is the one protesting on the streets
Why she?
because it represents the emotional virility
You're about to
without
trigger feminism.
beyond
Okay.
logic
Okay.
to suspend logic for a second. There's just an anger here. So even if I show this woman facts,
Do you know what she's like before you go? You remember in the Bible the woman who was cut into several pieces, raped at the
threshold
of the door.
That's this woman right
That's
there.
who we're dealing
So
with
she's
now.
30 years old.
Wow.
She has just been abused,
Raped, molested by the left, by the
But
right,
let me
by
tell
the
you
middle.
let me tell you what's happening to her. What's happening to her is she is not a victim of circumstance. She's a victim of choice. Now, what do I mean by this? The victim before 2020, let me personify her or him. They were a 25-year-old. Remember, just before 2020, they were a 25-year-old and they were of Arab descent, No, I'm going somewhere with this. And all of a sudden, they lived in London. This was the victim before this, right? And what this victim did was they found somebody, and this person said, hey, I want you to watch this video. So they sit down and watch this video. And in this video that this person who was not a victim before is watching, they are watching a real victim. See, this is not the victim. This has become a swapped victim. He has borrowed
the Arab? I didn't get
Let
it.
me tell you what. Because they watched the video, and in this video, this was just 2019, we forget so quickly. Watched the video, and in this video, an Arab was walking his kids home when a British soldier, boom, blew up the school bus. And kid died, his arm is left on the floor. Next scene, British soldiers are raping Arab women, shooting them in the heads and saying, serve the blankers right. And he's watching this, he's going, I'm so angry. Look what they're doing to my people. Look what they're doing to my people. And this victim here flies to Iran, gets some secret training, flies back into the country, and blows up themselves on a bus. This person here.
So the conversation has moved from terrorism.
Right.
What you're saying.
This guy, no, it's not moved.
Because terrorism has died down.
It's not moved.
Oh.
It's not moved. Here's the problem. We called it terrorist because that's what the media told us. Really, this victim here, wasn't a terrorist. Mm-hmm. No, it's a he because it was mostly men doing this.
Okay.
He wasn't a terrorist. He was just triggered by a real victim. Today, now we have this woman. She's 30 years old. Guess what's happening? She's sitting down, so I say, hey, I want to show you a video. So play the video. Someone is kneeling on the mat.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I was lost for a second. He's watching. Okay, so this is a young kid maybe watching propaganda or truth or whatever they feel they're watching.
It happened. That's the problem. It happened.
They are acquiring.
They are borrowing the offenses of what they're seeing repeated to them.
And it's powerful what you watch, because you remember being a kid and watching Roots for the first time?
Yeah,
and then going to school.
Lots of white people.
You were like, they
exactly.
didn't do it, but you were like.
Exactly. So what we have, we're calling this person the victim, when all this person did was watch something that happened to a real victim. And then they have become Breonna Taylor. They have become George Floyd. They have embodied.
But then we also, I guess, have familiarities with the victim.
Right.
So it may not be on that macrocosm, but in our own micro way, we felt what it felt like to be treated. I mean, you and I were put in somewhere called the jungle in Scotland at a young age. We were treated with racism at a young age.
My point is this. There's something in America
But there are some who are real victims.
No, but my problem is this. There's something in America called freedom of speech, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has freedom of speech. And UK started that, migrated to the US. Arguably, our freedoms are being eroded, but we still have the right to free speech, arguably. Here's the problem. Those rights are limited by certain amendments. One of them is you cannot cry gun in a crowded room. If you do that, you'll be arrested. You can't use your speech to deliberately, maliciously harm somebody else. Mm-hmm. The only people that get an injunction against, or what's the right word? The only people to whom that is an exception to cry gun or bomb in a crowded room is the media. Mm. They are the only ones who can use their speech to cry bomb in a crowded room and everybody gets hurt and scatters away. That's what the media is doing every day. We don't have death by gun. We don't have death by cop.
We are being controlled by media.
We've had death by the same thing. The terrorists had it in 2018, 2017, 2019. It's still the same thing. Death by media.
And this is what a famous man once said: if you tell something over and over and over again, it becomes the truth.
Exactly.
Hitler said that.
And can I tell you
he
how I
was
know?
one of the fathers of the propaganda machine
Right.
that was moving in World War II.
Right.
And it's still, what we see on news today is propaganda. Proof. Let me prove it. Go on CNN. Here's the story. Then go on Fox News. There's the story. Then go on MSNBC. So is there actually anyone telling the story as it is?
Somebody wise said, nobody's telling the news anymore, they're just telling the narrative.
That's it. It's not, so we're still, you got all these fact checkers checking what's fact and excusing propaganda.
Right.
And complete, like I saw LBC today, and then I saw, because I follow all of them. And I saw LBC today, and it was like Biden does. I think it was LBC, or it was probably CNN. And I commented under it because I'm now becoming a troll. But underneath, it said something like Trump says things that were completely wrong. That's how it started. Trump in capitals says things that fact check was completely wrong. Biden said something
Made some mistakes.
but was mostly
Exactly.
correct. And I said, wow, is that the new word for lying? Mostly correct. And you just see this. And then somebody else on the other page was like, Trump did not outrightly condemn white supremacists. And I said, but Biden, you didn't outrightly condemn Antifa. So, because both of you, essentially, this is a trap. Trump, we cannot deny, gets votes from white supremacists. You cannot deny that white supremacists probably make up some part of his votes.
Absolutely.
Biden cannot deny
Then Antifa.
that Antifa makes up some of his votes. So you publicly go ahead, you're politically restrained, even though morally, and personally, morally, I'll say, get lost. And he has renounced several times. You can pull up videos of Trump saying, I outrightly and categorically denounce white supremacy. But it doesn't matter until he does it today, you know? But both of them, you see Biden, will you renounce Antifa? Nothing. So I was like, underneath the video, I was like, the pot said to the kettle.
Right.
You're both playing politics. And honestly, the what was it called last night? The debate? It was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing. It was so exhausting to watch.
Yeah.
It was tiring.
But here's my
it was
thing.
immature. It
Yeah.
was two grown men acting like babies.
Yeah.
Going at each other.
Yeah.
And it was exhausting. If you're going to punch, and there were some good punches, I can't deny. But you know when you're just swinging over and over and over again, you keep swinging to a point that none of your punches matter because most of them are hitting the air.
Right.
That was what I was watching yesterday. I was like,
Right.
I stayed up all night for this fight, and it was just swinging air. One or two landed, but most of it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And honestly, most people right now are exhausted. My concern is people are going to vote out of sheer
Exhaustion.
which is tired.
My thing is and again, I'm looking at this as a kind of an observer. It's what's going on in the world, the fabric of the world. All our institutions are being stretched thin right now because there's so much.
But don't you think it's being controlled?
I think whether it's been controlled or not, it's good. And I'll tell you why it's good. Let me trigger you why it's good.
I don't know if it's good.
No, let me tell you why it's good. I'll tell you why. Because for the first time, we can clearly see a difference between what this side wants and what this side wants.
Yeah.
For the first time in history, we can actually make a choice that doesn't require much discernment.
Yeah.
And so if we choose, and my fear is for people of faith, is that they are going to be independent. That's my fear.
Let me give you a counter argument to what you just said. This side and this side. Let me tell you what my fear is. Okay? Who's more powerful? You're watching football. There are the people on the pitch. This side wants to score goals here. This side wants to score goals here. But then there's somebody sitting down behind, watching it on TV doing this. Who are you most afraid of?
The person sitting down watching people.
That's who I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about these players, left versus right. I'm thinking about who's taking advantage of these players. Doing this. Who's the manager? Who's the guy who understands the game and is playing both
And that's
sides
very true.
well?
And that's very true.
Because I actually believe we're in a supremely ideological war. and there are sub-ideologies being thrown in so the gullible can kick the football around. But there's a supreme ideology that if we allow these guys to get hysterical with each other enough, and we say, oh, do you hear what he said about your mama? Oh, and there's somebody doing this on both sides.
Right.
There's no denying that the Democratic Party is funding Antifa.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. There's no denying the Democratic Party is funding a Black Lives Matter movement. There's no denying it. My problem is wickedness seems wiser than righteousness. You know, the snake was far more subtle and crafty. The greatest indictment to Christians, I believe, is in the scripture that says how much wiser are the sons of this world than the sons of the kingdom. How much more crafty, how much more serpentine. I saw Trump have a real opportunity. He seems to me to not be good in character and nature. He's abrupt. There were things I'll change about him. I'll probably smash his phone or make it run out of battery every time so he doesn't tweet. There are things I would change about him. There are things that I think are refreshing about him. The refreshing point about him is I believe there'll be a post-Trump world in which, forget media, I think this is why media is angry, because this guy doesn't go through media to speak to people. He just goes, I'm just going to talk to the people on my Twitter right now. He's not political. Biden wanted to present himself as presidential. Trump got under his skin, but I could tell that was his play. Present as presidential. Trump's going to go after him like he's Hillary. But I think there's a supreme ideology. There's a discipleship program going on. It's been going through our universities and our schools to get this world into a state of which people will gladly surrender all their rights to freedom.
Yeah, and here's the
That's
here's
what
the
I
problem.
think it's all about.
And here's the
How do
problem.
we get you so worked up in fear that you will gladly give up total freedom?
Right. And do you know what I think in conclusion, because I think we've got to wrap this up. I think in conclusion, what triggers the world at large is that manager metaphor that you just used. The manager is prescribing the poison that they're not taking. They're sitting there like Beyonce and all of these Jay-Z people, and they're telling you about.
They're not the managers.
No,
They're the captains.
Let me just use them as an example.
Yeah.
They're sitting there and they're going, drink this, touch this, slap this, tap that, be the queen, be the bee, be in charge, be this, be that, be the feminist, girl power, hashtag, blah, blah, blah. But their marriages are okay.
They're not selling drugs anymore.
They're not selling drugs anymore. They're not gangbanging anymore. They're not shooting up. They're just rapping about shooting up other black people, but they're not actually shooting up other black people.
They've got no black people on their board.
They got no black people on their board. It's just white rich accountants. Now here's the thing, like you just said, isn't it funny? This is why I know your management metaphor is correct. Isn't it funny how all of this noise, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, which is a socialist movement, Black Lives Matter again, a Marxist movement, but about the advancement of black people, feminism, transgenderism, and all of these isms, yet at the end of all the noise, you still have two white men. Does anybody just wake up?
That's what I thought yesterday.
At the end of all
When I
of
was
this,
watching it.
shouting and fighting.
If you don't vote Biden, you ain't black.
You
I'm the
but
savior.
you still got two white
White
men.
men.
And we still got all these players in the court, like Kevin Hart and all these players looking going, yeah, don't vote for that white man, because that white man is really bad. Vote for this
If you were
white man,
going
because
to
this
be
white
good,
man is
maybe
bad.
put Harris, who's kind of black. You put Harris there instead as the president,
But that's-
Biden as VP,
But that's what I'm saying.
but you need
I think
to
what,
sell it.
I think what triggers us in the world today is the makeup we put on the cadaver. We have literally thought Black Lives Matter. All Black Lives Matter did really, if you look at the shape of this election today, they did paintwork damage. It was aesthetic. They haven't changed anything.
Nope.
They pulled down statues. Nothing's changed.
They didn't put money into black
They didn't put
institutes,
money-
black
there's
entertainment,
still
black
There are
businesses.
still two white people running for government, white males, white straight males, running for power. And we realized all of this noise was just skin damage, because there is, if I can define the manager, if I can be so bold, It's not a coronavirus. It's more invisible than that.
They're in the shadows.
It's Satan.
They're in the shadows.
I'm not even, it is Satan himself.
But there are people who are just as in the shadows.
Oh, there are rules of darkness.
You know, this
who
is
are-
a
who are
powerful,
being used
if
by
you
him.
see it, this is a powerful game. It's poker. And they're not revealing all the cards.
Right.
But see all these gullible guys
Right.
in the middle,
Right.
posting on social media every move you're gonna make? You think you're smart, you think you're in the game, you're dumb.
You're not, you're
You're
pawn.
dumb.
You're a pawn.
You have no idea, you're just a pawn.
Yeah.
There are people who are really holding the cards, of whom it's their responsibility to make sure the world surrenders power.
Right. So, in conclusion, how do we heal this patient?
How do you heal the patient?
Yeah, I got some steps.
I've only got one step. The patient has to want to be healed. You can't help a patient who doesn't want help.
Right. What if you can?
If you can help the patient, and the patient really wants help, they really want help, I first think the patient has to prove they want help by escaping in the middle of the night from the cult. That's what Nicodemus did. He escapes in the middle of the night, says, like, talk to me. Because the problem is, light's about to shine in your face. You've been in a dark cave for a long time, and light is rude and irritating. And when it shines, if you fight me, I'm not interested in helping you anymore. You ever help people who attacked you after you helped them? It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst. I'm not about to be attacked for helping you.
I think that this is definitely true. But let's be incurable optimists for a second.
Ooh.
I get that. But you know, Moses helped people that didn't want to be helped.
Look where he ended up.
Joshua helped people that didn't want to be helped. Okay. So listen, there's a place for this. Let me just bring my solution right now.
Go on.
My solution is, first of all, I think if you're a pastor, youth pastor, leader, your focus has to be not the now generation, the generation after them. I'm just being real.
Because the enemy is already on them.
The now generation, I think they've already got a little bit brainwashed. I think your focus needs to be on the remnant of the now generation and on the next generation, and to really disciple them. There's nothing wrong with
And find someone young to
Let
do
me
it
just
too,
say this, and
please.
it's going to trigger somebody. There's nothing wrong with brainwashing except who's doing the washing, right?
And what the water.
And what the water. So fill them, wash their brains of the filth of the world. You don't need hundreds of thousands of them.
Everybody's running on a program.
You just need a
Everyone.
couple of them.
Yeah.
And incubate in them the level of change that is past religious, that is past theological. It is wisdom and revelation.
Wisdom.
It is change agent. It is
Bro, do you know how that word needs to ring?
wisdom.
You know, I hear people all the time argue
We got to close,
theology.
bro, because we
Yeah,
got.
let's do this
we got
another
now.
show. We got another
I
show
think
to do.
we got another show. So that's one. I think step number 2 would be once
Give
you
them a voice. Give them a voice.
be willing to give them a platform.
Be willing to give them a platform and a voice.
Right.
Accept they will make mistakes. If you
Absolutely.
keep protecting them from mistakes, they will not grow.
Exactly. They are created in the chamber of the same mistakes that created you.
And don't lock them in the church just because they transfigured. I say that because Jesus transfigured, or they say,
Let's build a tent. Whoa.
Stop putting them in the tent
Yeah.
when they are transfiguring. They are representing Christ in a way that you haven't got figured out
Absolutely.
yet.
That's powerful. Wow. That is powerful. I think that number 3, I think if people are wealthy, because wealthy people have a place. God makes
We need
rich and he
people with
makes
more money.
poor. You know, if you're wealthy,
Yeah.
stop giving to build a bigger cathedral for somebody's ego. Let me just say that
Can I
right
say something
now.
else? Buy laws.
Buy
laws.
Right.
Buy government.
Lobby.
Democracy for sale.
Lobby.
Lobby. Get your money
The
in
Bible
there.
says, with money, make friends. With unrighteous mammon, make friends. And so, start making lobbying decisions. Start investing in organizations that are advancing more than a church building to house congregants that have lost their ability to come back.
Invest in media.
I'll be real. Invest in media. Like, if you're wealthy, start investing in voices that can transmit a new sound in the airways. Because he's not the prince of the power of the church. He's not the prince of the power of the building. He's the prince of the power of the air. We're losing the air. And wondering why we don't have any ground.
That's it. Any army that doesn't have ground is because they lost the air.
Have you studied this in the UN Charter?
Yeah. You need
air supremacy,
yes.
air parity, and air superiority.
Yeah.
Every nation in the UN Charter needs air supremacy to dictate the strength. The strength of a military is not in the ground troops, it's in the Air Force. It's in the missile technology, it's in anything that can reach the air. Even the Army knows this, the ground troops say, seek higher advantage. Because the one that's higher up the hill has the greatest takedown power. That's why when they all come out and start shooting down, it's like, it's an ambush, right? Because they've taken
and they know
the
they've
air.
lost when somebody has that advantage.
Exactly.
You know you've lost.
Exactly.
Air supremacy.
It's why. Why do you think Nelson Mandela wants? Not Nelson Mandela. What's his name? The astronaut. Is it Nelson too?
I don't know.
I forgot his name. What's the astronaut called? Neil Armstrong, Nelson Mandela. Why do you think Neil Armstrong wants to go to the moon to put a star? Why do you think Jesus wants to ascend above all of the heavens? But look what it says. He ascended, Ephesians 4, he ascended above all the heavens that he might fill all things. And so you need a higher vantage point to be able to fill everything. The church has just been taking ground. Let's build a cathedral.
We've been praying a lot. But see, if there are no natural movements that accompany what you're doing in an invisible manner, there's no release of power. It's that faith without works.
Right.
If you pray a lot, you are clearing the atmosphere. But look what happened. Daniel fasts 21 days, clears the atmosphere, and new principality comes in its place. Because the air abhors vacuum.
Because nature abhors vacuum. And
so
this is
you
why,
leave that space.
Right.
You see, I think after every revival, you saw technological advances. Because we prayed, but we were so religious minded when God was reigning it. He said,
"No, we just
give it over here."
Exactly. It's like what Jesus actually said. The demon comes back and finds the place empty. The question is, his church, we want to tear down the high places. What are you going to replace it with? You want to tear down the high places and take over the low places. Let's rent out a school building and hope to God that it takes it. What? Who's going to own the media companies? Who's going to take the air? Who's going to redefine fashion forever? Who's going to take culture? You cannot take the cult of culture without taking the air.
I think we're done.
If I be lifted up in all the earth, I'll draw all men to me. And I just think this is the key. So guys, let us know what you think in the comments box below. If you've
final healing this thing needs is healing from stupidity. We'll deal with that another day. I have to go there.
He went there. Okay, we're going to leave those shoelaces undone.
Stupidity. We'll leave that undone.
We'll leave these shoelaces undone. But guys,
maybe a topic about Christianity and stupidity, like the spirit of stupid. We need to deal with that one day.
Spirit of stupid. Guys, let us know what you think in the comments box below, especially if you are, if you are intelligently disagreeing. If you just sit there and you're just angry, we're not going to read your comments. So let us know if you are, at least smart in your disagreement. If you want to come on the program and rebut us, hey, or you want to call in and rebut us, we're going to have a call-in, live call-in, if you ever think you want to call in and challenge us on any of these thoughts, because we want to give you a voice. But if you're going to come in and scream and holler and shout, we're going to cut the mic and end the conversation. Let's be civil. But please comment below. Please do subscribe. We're moving to a new channel. Like we said, On the Table has its own YouTube channel. So please head on over there if you enjoy this and want to find out more about what we are doing. But for myself, Tomi Arayomi.
For myself, Tobi Arayomi.
You've been watching On the Table. Take care.
We all have a life.
No west, no bed. No ringing, no baby, female, no female.